What celebrity did bad things but everyone forgot what they did because they're famous? Boy George. He beat a guy with a metal chain after cuffing him to a radiator. Should make for an interesting sequence in his forthcoming biopic. Oh God, yeah, I'm guilty of forgetting all about that. I'm guilty of forgetting about Boy George. Damn, sentenced to 15 months. Was let go after 4 months for good behavior. I guess he was a man without conviction. Steven Tyler became the guardian for a 16-year-old he was dating when he was 25 so he could bring her on tour. Knocked her up too. Ted Nugent did the same thing. Don't think he knocked her up though. There was a groupie called Lori Maddox who Jimmy Page started dating when she was 14. David Bowie took her virginity when she was 15. And Mick Jagger gave her cocaine and slept with her while she was still underage. You never hear about any of this. Listen to Stray Cat Blues. He straight up sings about freaking 15-year-olds. Doesn't even want to see their id. Elvis Presley and Priscilla age 14. Right out in the public. No one batted an eye. Her parents allowed her to go on a trip under the condition that Elvis pay for a first-class round trip and arrange for her to be chaperoned at all times. And that she write home every day. Elvis agreed to all these demands, and Priscilla flew to Los Angeles. Elvis told her they were going to Las Vegas, and to throw her parents off the scent. He had Priscilla pre-write a postcard for every day they'd be away to be mailed from Los Angeles by a member of his staff. ND dropped her off back home pregnant at 17 and addicted to heroin and disappeared. Rick James kidnapped 2 women with his wife while on separate crack binges. And he fricked up Charlie Murphy's couch. Darkness. In my country there is a TV host that killed several people in a car accident. Twice. It was his fault both times. You can still see him on TV. He is talking about Serban Howdy. He killed 3 people in a car accident that was his fault. Tom Cruise is the celebrity face for a massive cult that kidnaps, rapes, and is likely involved in human trafficking and child marriages. The cult that outlawyered the fricking IRS. But yeah, Mission Impossible was cool, I guess. It's honestly so terrifying. If anyone wants to look this up, look up Leah Remini. She openly talks about what happened while she was in the cult and actually has stories of Tom Cruise and being a celebrity in Scientology. The scariest part is the lengths they've gone to in an attempt to silence her and discredit the documentary. They really, really don't want the general public to know about the horrors that go on in their churches. Piers Morgan was the editor of the Daily Mirror during the Iraq War. Published photos that he knew were fake of American and British troops abusing Iraqi prisoners. He was fired but somehow managed to make a successful media career out of it. One of my favorite videos of him is the one where he tried to shame that Love Island girl cause she didn't know Pythagoras' theorem. And when asked if he knew, he started reciting the digits to pi. The assumption he makes that being able to recite pi to say The first 5 digits is the basest form of faux intellectualism, too. It's what a 4-year-old might think of as the pinnacle of cognitive achievement. Didn't Jeremy Clarkson punch him in the face? Mark Wahlberg beat and blinded a Vietnamese guy. Just because he was Vietnamese. Can't believe it took me this long scrolling to find this. He's making millions off the Transformers films and everyone conveniently has forgotten that he committed a hate crime. Several hate crimes. I posted a longer list of violent and racist shiz he's done. Wahlberg is a lunatic. I can't believe that guy has a career. I mean, most of his movies are generic garbage anyway. Emma Roberts beat the shiz out of her then boyfriend Evan Peters. Then continued to co-star in the same show as him. She left Evan Peters with a bloodied nose and bite marks after some people called the cops on him when they had a fight in their hotel room in Canada. I'm saying this as a woman. It says a lot about how obvious the abuse is that when the cops turn up to a domestic violence case and arrest the woman instead of the man. They continued to date until early this year. Maybe she changed, but if I'm completely honest, I just feel relieved on Evan Peters' behalf. It must have been really bad for them to arrest her and not him. My brother-in-law got the shiz beat out of him by his wife and he called the cops and they showed up and arrested him even though he had a broken nose and she didn't have a mark on her. I'm also a woman and that shiz makes my blood boil. This one always bothered me. She bit his face. They stayed together and did the show, but nobody seemed to think the domestic violence was a big deal just because Peters didn't leave her. I guess no one's really forgotten. But Roman Polanski's still getting awards and standing ovations for his films. Something interesting I read once, and I could be wrong, is that a lot of the people, including the celebrities, who support him thought it was just rape because she was 13. And that if she was say 18 it wouldn't have been. Not understanding that it would have been rape no matter how old she was. Hollywood loves pedophiles. Ryan Reynolds did Green Lantern. Oh thank God. Still a slight against humanity. But not that bad. I can't help but feel Deadpool was an incredibly cathartic role for him. Chris Brown and R. Kelly. Chris should have lost his career for what he did. Right? I can't believe people still support him and other artists still want to work with him. Frick Lil Dicky. I really liked him as an artist, then he basically made a song about how great Chris Brown is. Seriously? John Lennon beat his wife. He yelled in his son's ear so loudly that he's now deaf in it. A child. Both Sean and Julian have been pretty open about how terrible of a father John was. Wow. As someone with abusive parents, I just lost a lot of respect for John Lennon. Thank you guys for sharing this. John Hamm led a fraternity pledge around the house by a claw hammer round his testicles while other frat members beat him so hard his spine was fractured and he nearly lost a kidney. Hamm later referred to it as a bummer of a thing that happened. I hate this. Not just because he hurt someone, but because it was so humiliating, and shows an utter disregard for other people. Hazing can go too damn far. Bad. Some juniors at my old high school made the news for hazing a boy years ago on their wrestling team. They shoved pencils, markers, etc. up the boy's ass. They literally raped him and I think were just suspended for literally raping a boy. But, of course, the article did not call it a rape. Just called it a hazing. Tim Allen got caught in an airport with 1.5 pounds of cocaine and gave up his connections, so he only did 3 years instead of life. Home improvement hung noise. Didn't he really get famous after he served his time? Gwyneth Paltrow. She's a con artist and manages a MLM. As well as recommending women treat their illness by putting rocks up the vagina and steaming their privates, causing harm to people. You can say she's an idiot. Or just that she's a sociopath that loves making money off hurting other people. Actual Gwyneth Paltrow quotes right here. "I don't think anything natural can be bad for you. I'd rather smoke crack than eat cheese from a tin. I am who I am. I can't pretend to be someone who makes $25,000 a year." I could go on and on. She seems super out of touch and has a massive ego. Will Smith was in YouTube Rewind 2018. Ted Nugent shiz his pants to dodge the draft. And has a song called Jailbait, which ends with him pleading with an officer not to arrest him and instead share a 13-year-old. R. Kelly married Aaliyah when she was 15 years old in the mid-90s. And yet it took like 2 decades for people to start boycotting him as a sexual predator. He was still making songs with Beyoncé and Lady Gaga etc. for a long time. Vince Neil was driving drunk and caused a crash that killed his passenger. The passenger was the drummer for Hanoi Rocks, another band that was outing with Motley Crue. Anthony Kiedis, Red Hot Chili Peppers, wrote songs about it too. Catholic Schoolgirl's Rule is about his hooking up with a 14-year-old at 23. Is just like everyone a pedophile. I wonder what that says about society. If you're powerful enough, you just start having sex with teens. Kurt Cobain's mother regularly goes on talk shows and interviews where she talks about how supportive she was of Kurt. And how she knew how famous he would become from the moment she heard his music. Yup, it's the same mom that abused Kurt and kicked him out multiple times, making him live at his grandparents' friends and sometimes, not confirmed, sleep under a bridge. You've reignited my old Nirvana obsession. So many parents of celebrities are such turds. Johnny Cash walked out on his wife and kids saying that his career was more important to him than they were. Then went on to eventually settle down with June Carter and start a whole new family while still ignoring the kids he already had.